Now, the rest of the story.
Alright, welcome back to the rest of the action. That's right, Dad and Ryan are working on combining beans. So what's the guy to do? He hooks the 7600 up to the Rhino rake, and he heads out and rakes hay. We're watching the weather very closely. We don't trust it at all. So that's pretty much the rhythm and the rhyme of how this year's been treating us. I mean, we haven't been able to make hay. The last time we actually baled hay or had any, the last decent weather we had for making hay was a month and a half ago. Over a month and a half ago, because it was what? The second week of September? So, long enough. The 7600 ended up on the Rhino rake because the 4640 is on the grain cart. The 76, my poor 76, that gets just beat to death, is being used for all of the hay making action here lately. It's doing 100% of the work up until this point, as far as cutting it, tedding it, raking it, baling it, and it's most certainly, if it's not going to haul all of it, it's going to be hauling at least part of it. So that's just the long and the short of it. And when you're in an operation where every tractor has its own specific jobs, and the 76 job is pretty much, it's the gopher. I mean, it go for this, it goes for that. Making hay, hauling manure, moving bales, moving grain. So this tractor really shines for being a larger frame tractor. I know people say we should get a smaller frame, like a 90 horse, something like the 4020 again, or just something that isn't going to burn up very much fuel. But I've never really complained about burning fuel in the tractor. I've heard people say that they don't like running any one particular piece of equipment because it burns too much fuel. Same thing with tires, now that we say that. I was thinking that today. I have new skins all the way around on this machine, and people always say that, well, you don't want to run up and down the road because you'll burn the tires off. That's a valid point to a certain degree, and the reason I say that is when that machine, the 7600 in this case, is running up and down the road, what is it doing? Is it making money in the process? Is it making hay? Are you driving to fields to make feed for your cattle? Whatever else? Are you using it for like hauling grain, selling grain to the local feed store? That's what we were doing here this last year. Generally, I look at a lot of the things we do anymore with the view of what is it doing to make a return. And I honestly never really thought of running up and down the road with the 76 was really a bad thing, as long as you're not just driving up and down the road just for the heck of it. I mean, we go through, we cut brush, we cut out waterways typically. This year we did it early in June, and then the rain never really stopped, so the hay kept growing. So we have waterways that typically look pretty nice right now for harvest, and they look like they are first cut pasture grass that has never seen a cow this whole year. But it is what it is, and I really, that job in particular, let's say that I got a farm 10 miles away that the field rows and everything really could be cut up, as far as gone through and cleaned up. But the problem is time, fuel, wear and tear. On a job like that at the end of the year, I mean, it's October, the frost is, we actually had a good frost the other night, but everything, it really didn't phase much of anything. Nothing's turning brown yet at all, other than the corn and beans. So in my opinion, I mean, that is kind of like lost money, as a waste of money. I mean, if it's in June and you're trying to keep the weeds down and everything else like that, great. But running up and down the road, people say that run and that actually go up and down the road in shorter distances than what we do on a daily basis, say that we should be getting a flatbed for the semi and hauling our tractors, hauling our equipment 5 miles. 4 miles, I think is what the one guy said. It's kind of interesting, some of the emails that I get I get sent. People's opinions are kind of surprising. But, there's multiple different types of people and different types of thinking all around the world. And I drive multiple miles throughout the day throughout the summer and planting and harvest, whatever else. And I guess it never really fazed me. Growing up, like with Grandpa, we drove between the farms, and that was it. So when it got to the point where we started driving more than 10 miles in any which way, and like even going to the feed store when we were selling oats in the summer, that seemed like that was a long drive. Like, it was just completely bizarre that, oh my gosh, we're driving away from home. We never done this. We hardly ever do this. This is just a once a year thing. And anymore now, I can go to the feed store 2 or 3 times a day if I'm weighing hay or selling corn, whatever else like that. It's just a different thought process, in my opinion. As far as, maybe I should talk about the hay just a little bit. This stuff was last minute panic, do something with it. Largely just because this past weekend we were supposed to get a bunch of rain, and I think we may have got just a little bit of a dusting, and not really anything that amounted to much. I mean, the ground was still dry, still cracked, and we really didn't feel like it really hurt the standing hay material at all. And it turned out, because Ryan went up to Lancaster, which is about 10 minutes north of us, I mean straight above us on 61, and this was after he went home that night for clarity, and he said he got completely rained out, like windshield wipers on, wide open, watching very diligently what's coming up on the road or for oncoming traffic. And Dad and I were still at Rockville at the home farm, and I don't know if he even qualified as a sprinkle, but that's what Ryan said the next morning. He's like, well, I'm glad I didn't cut anything, because I actually had gone out, and that's when I cut that, was it 7 or 10 acres or so? I guess I don't have an exact number on it. I'm going to call it 10 acres of mine. When he got rained out, or up in Lancaster, and he said, well, I'm glad I didn't go through and cut mine, because, if we would have gotten that much rain, he says, that would have just, it would have started to deteriorate on us. And as far as trying to get it dry this late in the year, Mother Nature, the weatherman, I don't know who you want to blame it on or give the credit for, gave us a little bit of good luck. And this last week, after that rainstorm shower that Ryan had gone through, we've actually had some fairly decent days. Not spectacular as far as drying, but I will go ahead and say is that it did the job. This Rhino equipment is really nice. I really do like this Rhino hay equipment. I like the tedder. I like this rake. Even the 4155, that VT. There's really none of that stuff that I'd really be hard pressed to tell you what of that stuff I would be willing to just, never, if I was told to, okay, what would you never ever run again? I don't know what I'd tell you. I think a tedder, I don't know if I've talked about the tedder enough, but I honestly feel like that is what's really been the determining factor, is if you're going to be making dry hay, dry, like baleable, even baleable material, or you're going to be basically making silage material. And for anybody that's new to the channel, we are not set up to make baleage. Our baler will make baleage. I've baled some, I've baled some material that was actually sitting in water, standing. Let's just say that when I went through and baled it, you couldn't see any water there. But then once I drove through it, and I came back in the following pass, there was water in the windrow pass. So needless to say, that stuff got fed like the next day. But I like our baler. To be quite honest, guys, ever since 2014, it took a little bit. You gotta crawl before you walk before you run before, you win a marathon, right? But just in recent years, I think we're really getting everything kind of tuned in as far as what works, what doesn't, what needs fixing, what needs attention, what doesn't. Our round baler, I like our round baler. We did a lot of work to it. It actually is getting to the point, after we get done with corn fodder this year, going through and maybe switching out, if not all of them. I got 2 in mind that I'm just going to go ahead and replace because they have a hole in them, and one has got a slice about 1/3 of the way around it from in part of making fodder last year, and then the other one is from one of the pickup rings, the guards. Actually came loose, and it came up and it caught the belt and tore it, but still runs great. It doesn't catch the net wrap or anything else like that, but it's one of those preventive maintenance things that I think I'm gonna have to address before I run another 400 or 500 bales through it. The 7600, it's gonna have probably 400, 500, 600 hours on it by the time we get to Christmas this year. The tractor is absolutely awesome. I mean, I know it's just a machine. It's not a humaner by any means, but I got a lot of respect for this tractor. I throw a lot of work at it. I throw a lot of varying work at this machine, and it just runs. It doesn't argue. But to be honest, yeah, it needs a little bit of work. I got a couple oil leaks on it that I am going to address. I think the hydraulic pump for the SCVs is getting weak, and SCV1 has to be the SCV1 stack, because there's a stack right behind the cab there in front of the SCV sign. Oh, I'm sorry, SMV sign. That needs to be replaced. I had mechanic just kind of glance at it when he was down here working on, what was he working on? Combine? Was it the combine? Irrelevant. No, it was the grain cart. And he said exactly that it's sticking in there. And we tried smoothing it out so it would actually move a little bit more freely, because it had a little bit of a burr on it, and we actually made it worse. So SCV1, it does work, but it's incredibly slow. And granted, we don't have a whole lot of machines that need all 3. This happens to be one of them. The only one that actually, no, the rake and the 4155 cutter use all 3 SCVs in the 76. It's irrelevant. It's not going to cost me a lot to fix, but the irritating part is, I think my high-low beam switch, my turn signal switch on the steering column went bad. My lights don't work on every setting. On the number 2 setting, I have the skirt lights. I call them the skirt lights. They're the ones pointing forward about halfway down the cab. They flicker. They're touchy. And then I actually have the 2 lights that I added on each side of the machine that are pointing straight out, attached to that same wire. And we were looking at it today. I thought it was a wire connection. It's not. And as I'm driving across the field, I mean, if the tractor jostles or bumps or anything else like that, vibrates, they'll flicker. And after some diagnosing, I'm pretty sure it's the high-low switch, because it will work on the one setting, but it won't work on the other one. So it is what it is. The only problem is that switch is over $300, and I just got done putting $1,000 worth of lights in this thing, so it's kind of kick to the jaw if you ask me. So this is the last of the hay raking videos for this year. Corn fodder raking and baling. I'm not sure if I'll be the one raking the corn fodder when the time comes. I'll probably be trying to combine my soybeans, hopefully. I mean, cross your fingers and hope that happens, but I'm going to let this go for now. So thanks for watching. Take care. Take it easy. Keep in touch. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you don't like to comment, that's fine with me. Just do me a favor, and could you hit that like button for me? That's all I ask. So until next time, take care.